and Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red.
Hello and welcome to Talking Reds, a Nottingham Forest podcast, hosted by myself, Greg Oram, and my podcast partner, Richard Spray. Today's panel guest is Dave Thompson. Last night at the City Ground was one of those nights where the numbers, the momentum, and the feeling in the stadium all told one story. But the scoreboard told another. Nottingham Forest fall to a 1-0 defeat again against FC Midtjylland in the first leg of this Europa League tie. A game where Forest created chances, controlled long periods, but ultimately paid the price for one moment late on that swung the entire night. So today on Talking Reds, we're going to break it all down. What went wrong? Why did a game that felt so dominant end in defeat? And how much damage has actually been done to this tie heading into the second leg next week in Denmark? We'll analyse the performance, the tactics from Vítor Pereira, the missed chances, and that decisive moment that gave Midtjylland the advantage. Then in the second half of the show, Richard will take over as attention turns straight back to the Premier League because there's no time to dwell. Fulham will be joining Forest at the City Ground on Sunday, and it's a huge match in the context of Forest season. And Vítor Pereira now has a genuine balancing act between chasing this European tie and securing the points, certainly with Spurs in a week and a half's time. Forest desperately need domestically to be in the Premier League next season. Plenty to get into today. We're going to start last night at the City Ground. If ever we need the rousing Mulligan tire, it's now. I think we're all feeling very flat and low and just kind of, not able to maybe make head nor tail of it. So we're going to get straight into reflecting on last night's match. Let me quickly say, if you are joining us in the comments, please do let us know you're here. We would love to give you a shout out and pop your comments on screen. Go ahead, like and subscribe, please, people. We're on X, we're on Facebook, TikTok, and we are also on Instagram. 5-star reviews would be lovely wherever you're listening on a podcast. All right. So last night, let's go straight to it. Dave, I'm going to come to you first. Thanks for being with us today. I mean, let's go straight to team selection. We all kind of try to work out what the team's going to look like. And so when Murillo's in there and you've got Jer Cunha, you've got Morato starting, one or two people getting a bit wobbly about that. None of us were really too sure if he was going to play Murillo at left back, but he went with a back three again. How happy were you with the fact that he left Milenkovic on the bench, Sangare was on the bench, and others too? What do you make of that team selection to start with?
I thought it was really odd. We've all talked about it. I don't know whether we're serious about, the Europa League and after coming off saying everyone's tired, everyone was leggy, when we played the other week, we've had a big break because of the FA Cup. I expected us to start our strongest team. We've talked about this in the past. I don't like this play, a second string side or a change side as much as we change. And then bring on players later on to try and save it. And I think it's the wrong strategy. When we do go out with the right strategy, as we did in the last leg, we go out, we play a strong team, we go 3 goals up, and then you can take people off and rest them. But we start with a strange strategy. They are big players, big, tall players, set pieces. We struggle with that at the best of times. Milenkovic on the bench and then had to come on after 6 minutes. So strange selection for me. Every time I see Morato's name, I shudder. I mean, you can't convince me as a professional footballer. I'm sorry, you just can't. So surprising that the team selection. Surprising. Well, not so. Injury. Rolled his ankle. I think. Had to go off. We're instantly changing. Didn't play well in the first half. You sort of prayed for half time so we could have a rejig. And then the rejig much better in the second half. Someone's got to shoot, though. I mean, you cannot dilly-dally around. Like, just take a shot. You know, the abysmal rain, the conditions could skip off the surface. Goalkeepers' hands are wet, balls wet. Anything can happen, and you know, just no one's prepared to have a dig. Where when you look at Anderson the week before, isn't it from outside the box and scoring a screamer? You know, we're all screaming at the TV for someone to shoot. Right? So yeah, weird setup.
What about you, Richard? I mean, there was that injury to Cunha, as Dave just mentioned. So Milenkovic is having to come on. I mean, Callum Hudson-Odoi is playing as a wing back, which I know apparently he's played at Chelsea before. But again, we've talked about starting strong, as Dave mentioned, get set up properly. When we make these changes, it just feels like we're on a hiding to nothing. It wasn't, to be honest with you, it wasn't like we were the weaker side in that first half, though. I mean, and just quickly, as before I come to you, we did have those shots. Ola Aina had the shot. Elliot Anderson had the shot. You know, Amari Hutchinson had the shot. The keeper was on form. So we were taking the shots in that first half. But, I mean, was it a head scratcher for you that Callum was starting? Maybe not Ola Aina?
Yeah, I mean, it even though maybe he's done it, it's not really his natural position, right? Like, I mean, even Dan Ndoye, I think, has played the 9 at times for his for Genoa, but that wasn't his natural position. It's not where you want to see him function. So yeah, I mean, I think when we tinker, it's like we do tinkering not only in terms of formation, but then we tinker with putting players in positions where I don't think you're going to accentuate their strengths. And so it is a bit of a head scratcher, like Dave was speaking of, and I think the word weird is so apropos because it's like just everything about it felt weird. It just felt like there was just, you're always a little bit off in every aspect of what you're doing, from a playing standpoint, from an effort standpoint, from a finishing standpoint. It's always just a fraction off. I think it's just what it does for me. I mean, just speaking about it in relation to the Europa experience, and I don't want to diminish what others have experienced, you yourself, Greg, being at those matches and the kind of excitement it brings to be back in Europe after 3 decades. But it does start to wear on you a little bit that the Europa experience doesn't become something that brings joy at this stage. It just feels like an inconvenience to what you need to do, which is stay in the Premier League, because for long-term sustainability, as I keep saying, you have to stay there. You have to continue to function in that league, even if we had a spectacular last year, and this is a complete aberration. And those kinds of moments are really frustrating to be at that end of the table, be fighting for survival. It's still, I'd rather, as I always say, it's still better to be fighting for survival in the Premier League than it is, say, in the Championship. So it feels very much like we're sacrificing a little bit at this stage, because these performances are not, they're not building any confidence that you can carry over into the Premier League experience to be able to say, and you're tiring out starters and you're creating problems in terms of rest. And like you said, I know we got the 8 days, so that definitely set things up, which we thought would have set up the ability to play a normal formation with a normal personnel. And so at least you have some synergy and some cohesion with that group, and know that they're going to be able to function in those roles because they've been doing it all season long. So I can't quite figure it out. I haven't watched the post-match candidly with Pereira to see what he was. I do appreciate, though, that what he is doing, there's a little bit of things in there that I could find joy in, like, for example, putting Anderson in a position to try to play in a more advanced role and to be more box scratching, because he's such a good player with the ball at his feet. He's a terrible finisher at this point, other than that one, couple of shots we've seen him take. He had a great shot in the match as well. Like you said, this keeper was just absolutely on it last night, but there's too many shots outside the box, too many moments where the ball came in the box and you felt like you had an opportunity to really put one away, and then they hesitated. And so it's just a chemistry for a frustrating performance. And if you're going to have something like that, at least end it with a 0-0 draw. So at least you can take away something from it, as opposed to giving it away on such a terrible goal to give up. I mean, Aina's there was zero effort on that. I mean, it was just, he just backed off and let the guy have a free header. So it just doesn't, it's nothing's computing with me in terms of what's going on inside these players' heads, and now the common denominator has been them. It's them. They're just not functioning at the levels they should. They're not being professional finishers in that box or in that final third. So it's just hard to come away with it without feeling a little bit disheartened.
Steve Owies in the comments says Callum Hudson-Odoi as the left wing back was never going to be great. And then we, of course, had Morato just behind him. Steph's in the comments. Morning, Steph. She said, I just can't with Morata. I just can't. I can hear her saying it. I just can't.
He lets the ball travel way too frequently.
Yeah, he is a liability.
And how did he let that ball go behind him and think that that guy was offsides? I mean, it was unbelievable.
I think he needs glasses or something. There's something he's not seeing. He's not seeing the ball, is he? He's like watching it and then lets it bounce.
He's allowing the ball to bounce, and it's a real problem. Just quickly, more comments before we come back in, guys. Forest had 8 days, Steve-O says. Why not start strong and then take players off? Binit Patel, good morning, Ben. He says Europa is now a heavy chain around our necks. 1 or 2 are laughing at Lorenzo Luca. Don't get me started on him. It's just, please don't. Andrew Hayward's with us as well. Morning, Andrew. He says playing well and losing is becoming a common and worrying theme of the Pereira era. It's 3 home games, 3 defeats. So, Dave, look, we've had managers galore this season. We had the Wolves game where we had so many chances, Dyche's last game, and the ball just wasn't going into the back of the net. When Ange was in charge, we created umpteen chances against Sunderland and other games and just couldn't score. It's been a recurring theme. And as Richard just said, the common denominator, it's these players. I know we've got no Chris Wood, but when we score goals, it seems to be they are worldies, like the Gibbs-White back heel. Elliot Anderson's goal was maybe a half worldie, but it done well to hit it from outside the box. You know, he needs to do more of that. We can't keep relying, can we, on our goals being the worldies, because they are few and far between. What did it show you last night? How worried are you now about Forest being able to score goals? Because here's the stat on the screen about the home games from Opta Joe, that Forest's last 4 home games at the City Ground, everyone's seen it, 88 shots, 126 touches in the opposition box, an XG of 6.4, and they've just scored 1 goal. I mean, they're saying misfiring. Misfiring, it's deeper than that, isn't it?
I think it is, and it's we you know, I don't know what it is a confidence thing, and I don't get it week on week. You know, the Morgan Gibbs-White goal. You know, I mean, ultimate confidence, like we're a team, you know, oozing with confidence and thriving that we'd be the top of the league to score those kind of cheeky goals. The Anderson goal, you know, absolutely spectacular, takes a step, scores, but all of a sudden we then go to another game and I don't know, it's just some of them we just look a little bit scared of just doing the basic stuff. You know what I mean? They're just doing the basic stuff well. Like, you know, I saw Hutchinson's shot last night, keeper save, but you know, it wasn't along the ground. It was a perfect height for the goalkeeper. You know, we can say it was a good save. It was, but it was a perfect height for a goalkeeper. They need to step up. Like I say, the team as a whole need. I don't know about a board meeting with the owner. I think they need a board meeting with themselves right now, and they need to start taking responsibility and accountability for them on the pitch, and change. They just need to I don't know what it is, but you know, everyone just looks off. I mean, Callum, you could rely on to score goals from somewhere. He's off at the moment. You know, he's a great game, then he's off, and you sort of think he's back, and then he's not. So yeah, there's something weird and wonderful going off, and I can't put my finger on what it is, but we need to start scoring from anywhere and everywhere, right? You know, everyone needs to start chipping in. It can't be the responsibility of 1 or 2 and traditional strikers, because I'm not really sure we have a traditional striker anymore. You know, so it's going to need everyone else to chip in, and I don't care whether they come off. They don't need to be worldies for me. They can come off someone's knee, backside, hit them in the head, you know, maybe just have Luca lay on the floor like a doormat and hit them at him and see if they bounce off. I don't know. Something.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that we're just not getting the rub of the green when it comes to those goals that you need that are a little bit freaky. We're not getting them. But we've talked, Richard, about the balancing act that having the Europa campaign versus the Premier League brings to Forest. The challenge. It's only a challenge really because of the position we're in the Premier League. And Vítor Pereira with his team selection last night was clearly trying to safeguard Sangare and the others, and Nico Williams, as I say, because he sees them as key components of his Premier League team. They've had 8 days off. We've talked about, let's start strong, because this was our home game and our opportunity to put goals on the board. I kind of feel like this was a worst case scenario coming to pass where you go in behind. I mean, it's not a 4-0 defeat, it's a 1-0 defeat. So you might suggest, well, look, we can overturn that on our day. But the problem we've got now, if we're going to try and overturn that, we've got Spurs 4 days later in the second leg. So I don't want to kind of get too far ahead of looking forward to next week's game now. But it sounds to me like, Richard, you're just prepared to bin off the Europa League now. Are you that fed up with it?
Yeah, I'm walking a fine line here, because as a Forest fan, you never want to encourage us not to put forth effort, when in fact that we're saying show more fight, show more determination to get a result, right? I just think I don't know. I mean, as you say, as I think Stephen was saying in the comments, it's not an insurmountable thing, right? Don't be glum and glummery here, guys. But it's not an insurmountable thing to go into an away match. I think the problem is that the odds are stacked against you in this match simply because that team hasn't lost at home the entire season. And it was certainly not on my bingo card that Midtjylland was going to be a bogey team for us, because, I mean, we've got another one coming up, right? So it's just an unfortunate series of events with how we've not seemingly string together good performances, regardless throughout the season, but simply in Europe. I don't know. I think even Marinakis himself, would have to consciously think, do I really feel like it's worth my the money I've invested in everything that's going on to see our team potentially get relegated because we're trying to fit in these extra fixtures. Because even if we beat Midtjylland, then again, you've got another scenario, right, where you're increasing the match volume. And so at a critical time, as you pointed out, where you've got these key matches coming up, where you have opportunities to put some things away or at least create distance. And we know we've struggled with that. So yeah, I'm honestly probably, if you're looking at it from where the needle is like pointing at this stage, it's probably pointing on the side of, let's just really maximize the rest opportunity for our starters. Let's really let them be mentally and physically ready for this last little home stretch in the Premier League. Because while we have 9 matches left, it's still that still isn't as many as we think. Those weeks will go by quickly, and the opportunities to really put ourselves in position to stay out of the relegation zone will dissipate quickly. So I've personally, if you're asking me right now, I'd love to win a trophy. I'd love to win matches, period. I don't like to go on any type of losing streak, regardless if it's just one game. But I do think at this stage we're just sacrificing a lot by trying to have to make these decisions and trying to put Pereira in a position where he's got to try to do that balancing act, as you said, and it's really just not working.
Right. But it's a bit like you say, like you said. Sorry, Greg. But it's like you said before. It's not building confidence in the team, right? It's having the opposite effect right now, and it's having the opposite effect with the fans. I think that's this glum and glummer thing. Well, none of us are trying to be glum, but it is having that same opposite effect with the fans. You saw that wariness for the game before the game. With no one really wanting to go. I think a lot of fans in their head they're like, maybe we need to focus elsewhere right now. So.
Well, and I think to your point, it also illustrates what David Prutton said like a few weeks ago, right? Which is the fans are putting in the effort, the fans are showing up, they're doing their part, and they want to try to help energize the team and invoke a good product in the end, a good result, and provide that sort of environment that makes it difficult for other teams when they're coming in. But for whatever reason, our boys are not reacting to it. That's a bit odd to me, because normally it's the opposite effect, right? With any type of athlete, they generally feed off of that energy, right? It accelerates their belief in the moment, and it doesn't seem to be doing that, which is really strange. And so I wonder too, just as much as we as fans at times have had that burnout and that fatigue over just everything that cumulatively has occurred, I wonder if they're kind of in that same place as well, and that's hard thing when you're in that mindset to get away from that. And so I think what can help with that is sometimes a little bit more time with your family, a little bit more time to rest and relax and decompress. And so maybe, the Europa thing, if it does conclude next week and we don't move on, it's still a good showing. I mean, we've, done a decent job considering, but it's not been what we've expected. And I think maybe it'll be a good thing in the end for us to exit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sticking with this game for last night for the next 10 minutes or so. So we come out in the second half, and he interestingly decided he'd seen enough of Morato. And so when you've got Morato in a back three, we saw the danger of that. So he decided to take Morato off, bring Nico on, and go to that back four. And I wonder now with Jer Cunha being injured, and we don't know how long, but it looks like he's rolled his ankle. Let's suggest he's out for the next couple of weeks at least. I and we'll get into team selection for later on, but I'm just kind of like speaking my mind a bit. I wonder if he now sees the 4-2-3-1 as a more viable option, because the risk factor with Morato is there. We've seen him let the ball bounce. We've seen him switch off. He just looks reckless. He is a real problem. And it's not, this isn't news, everyone. I'm not telling you stuff you don't already know. I realize that. So I wonder about that aspect of it. But I also wonder, going back to the scoring goals or lack of scoring goals, if there's any way we can tweak our attack. And that, again, is something I'm interested to get your guys' views on throughout the rest of this episode. But in the terms of last night, when we come out in the second half, for the first 10 minutes, I thought we're going to score. We're going to have to score. But then the rain came, Dave. I mean, and when it came, it really came. And I don't like using the rain as an excuse, but it really did put out the fire of Forest. They were kind of had that bit between their teeth. And the rain came at the right time, I felt, for Midtjylland, in terms of it made the pitch heavy. It meant it was very difficult to play in those circumstances. So do you think that was a factor, and how much of a factor was it? Or is that just another flimsy excuse?
I'm not sure it's how much of a factor. I mean, we had some good chances with the rain. The cross Manderson, Gibbs White could have got on the end of it, didn't. I don't know where that slowed the ball down or sped the ball up. I'm not quite sure. I don't think it was too much of a factor. I think just
Amari Hutchinson's face cream was getting in his eyes, apparently, he said. I don't know why he said that.
There's a modern footballer for you, his face cream getting in his eyes, right? I don't want to make any excuses for the performance. We looked disjointed, and I don't know whether rain. Honestly, I don't know whether rain helped or hindered us. Really, same for both sides, right? It was
same for both sides. And the sucker punch came, Richard, because we were on the attack and creating chances. And, it was a very different game to the first one against Midtjylland, where obviously we went behind those 2 goals and got ourselves back into it. And, just felt against Midtjylland in the group game that we were just all over the place, and they capitalised because they're very structured defensively, very rigid. And of course, we suffer from their set piece capability. But last night, I was pleased at how we controlled the game in certain parts. I felt like we were, the eye test showed me with a better team, and the chance creation showed me with a better team. Even the shots from distance showed me that we were the better team. The Anderson shot, I thought it was in. I was off my seat. So I was quite happy with that side of things. Then the sucker punch comes. Ola Einar's been brilliant for Nottingham Forest, and he's come back from injury. I still don't think he's 100%. I still think you come back from that layoff, he's still building fitness up. Is Ola Einar's place under threat now, do you think?
I think you look at it in the same vein as you did at certain points with Callum or Elanga or even Brennan Johnson, first season, where you, for whatever reason, they just go through these spells where they're just struggling a little bit. I mean, I thought Ola looked pretty decent against Man City. He looked a little bit more like himself with the ball at his feet. He looked a little bit more lively. He's really good at sort of like, stop and start acceleration, and you could see elements of that. And he looked like he was managing the wing play really well. He wasn't getting overrun. He wasn't getting beaten frequently. But I think the problem is that when you are doing a lot of running and you are playing an advanced position and you're trying to do all of that, and you are getting back to the full level of match fitness that all is capable of, and when you've seen the best of him, you're going to have these moments where you just sort of hit the sort of fatigue wall. And there was that point where that ball came in, should have been easily dealt with. Even if I think he had put himself in a position where he at least tried to disrupt him in some way, right? By, trying to challenge him in the air, he just tapped him and then backed away. And it was like, there was no rhyme or reason to that. And I wouldn't say that his place is necessarily in jeopardy, because we've seen far better performances from him than we've seen poor. But I do think maybe sometimes you just need a little bit of a wake up and said, we can't have you allowing those things to happen. We're going to sit you for a game, and we'll obviously look at this when we get to our looking at our lineups for Fulham. Back away for a match, let somebody else have a chance, because Nets has just been sitting there probably clamoring for minutes, and then you could move Nico over to the right or something like that. It's just maybe that helps him kind of re-engage, because he's the kind of player we're going to need in that again in those last few matches to be at his best in order for us to be successful. Because he did have a nice shot in the match that caused a ricochet that, unfortunately Jesus was in a good position to finish, but it was one of those moments that potentially we could have capitalized on and got a really cheap goal off of. So, he does have so many skill sets that you covet. At one time we even, I think, talked about him being one of the best right backs in the league last season. So,
yeah,
you can't
Right.
diminish that. You can't, push that aside. So, but like with other players, I think it could potentially be, hey, sit him for a match, just give him a chance to kind of like gather himself a little bit and be ready for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it was a poor moment. I thought, when you look, it doesn't look great on the replay. He looks like he's just been really passive, Dave. Right, we're going to wrap up talking about the match. I want to ask you, Dave, I know we lost the game, but we had good spells in it. Who stood out for you last night out of the Forest team? Who showed that they're up for the fight?
I think, Anderson in spell. Always Anderson in spells. Hutchinson, I thought were really good. As you know, I didn't see the end of the match. I was I had work. I was on calls, but
Sure.
so I missed the goal as well. So luckily,
as much.
But yeah, look, I think we just need a bit more cohesion and a little less tinkering and some confidence to set in. I think that we're just missing those things. I really do think that's what it is, and we just need a bit of a breakthrough, really. But
around next week, Dave, can they go to Denmark and get a result? What's the best you think we can hope for going to Denmark?
I think whatever is my confusion. It is, I don't know what team we're going to play next week. I don't know, like with Richard, I don't know whether we're just going to play the reserves and call it a day, or we're going to play a full strength team and go for it. But it seems to me we've got this the wrong way around. It seems to me that after 8 days, we should have played the first team and took them off and almost secured so we could have a bit of a break before the really important Spurs game. And now we've got the flip dilemma that now we have another injury. The team are disjointed. We're going to play Fulham, then go away. And what do? Do you then play your best team with all the problems that we may incur from injuries and things, and then 4 days later going to Tottenham? And I don't know whether it's a confidence building move or whether they're just team selection is going to be really interesting. If he plays another week inside next week, I think we've called it. Because I don't see us coming back from it, and they're just going to sit back. We need to attack them. That's what they're going to do. I would do that. Right?
I mean, I'm not sure that I would call last night a weak inside. I would call 3 rotations out when you bring. I mean, when you've still got. I mean, Morato. We know about Morato, okay, but it is what it is with him. It was maybe the one for me that was a bit of a head scratcher was playing Callum as a wing back, but I kind of went with it. Thought, I'm going to go with it. Okay, fine. We'll see where it gets us. It wasn't really working. He's much better operating higher up the pitch, as we all know. The front 4 was, or front 3 was I would expect. I mean, Dominguez is still a very good player. He's a first choice player. He's a first team player. If you're going to pick your 2 midfielders, you would pick Anderson and Sangare, but Dominguez is at that level. It's a little bit of a pick 'em, isn't it? Depending on the opposition. Bringing Dominguez in, I don't think weakens the team. I think it's a different type of player. I think if you're going to go to Denmark next week and play a weakened team, then that definitely is. You're playing Lorenzo Luca, you're playing Bakwa, you're playing McAtee, you're playing Abbott at right back, you're putting Angus Gunn in goal, etc. You're making those kind of changes, and I just don't see that happening. I don't think that. My personal view quickly is I think he'll play full strength next week at Denmark. I think that's what he's going to have to do, and just say to them, look, it's backs to the wall. It's you guys stepping up to get results. Whether that's right or wrong, but that's what I think he'll do. Richard, just quickly coming to you to finish off the match. Morgan Gibbs-White has certainly stepped up in recent games. I thought last night he was excellent again, and it just didn't quite run for him a couple of times. how much are we relying on him, and can it all? Is it fair to put it all on his shoulders again?
I mean, he has the sort of personality and mindset, I think, to accept that role, to be the one who's kind of the driving force behind, how we perform as a team. I think Raf said it on the last episode that he has taken that mantle. I think for a while there, he seemingly lost it. He was putting in reasonable performances here and there, but then he'd have extreme highs and lows in terms of his level. And so it's good to see him kind of at least give you a pretty strong performance week in and week out. Does it worry me, obviously, to put so much on his ability to score goals, because he's the one who's primarily scoring the goals, and particularly in the Premier League with 8? Do I think that that's a bad thing that he's stepping up and he has scored more goals than he's ever scored in the Premier League? No, I don't think it's a bad thing, because as Dave said, it's an aggregate scenario, right? Just get as many goals as you can from anywhere possible, with Chris Wood not being participating. And so I don't think it's a bad thing, because I think if you're going to be a talisman, or you're going to receive that moniker, you need to live up to that. So I think he's taking that seriously. I think he recognizes where we are, how that translates to what he says off the pitch and then dressing room and all of that. I'm sure he's trying to G the guys up and get them ready for the next match. So I have a feeling, we'll come out in the next one with a lot better performance level, and really try to be a bit more clinical. Hopefully the weather plays nice as well, so that provides value to us. But yeah, I'm happy to see him accepting that, because I think that's what he should be expected to do, because that's the kind of player he is. And I think he thrives on that. I think he thrives on the ability to be that guy who's kind of the central focus, and he moves things forward for us.
Just checking in is Big Arn. He's joined us. He says, "Is this a safe space?" I'm
always, man. Come on.
It's always safe here. We sometimes rage, but we're keeping our feet on the ground. All right, we're going to go to a break in just a second. Let me start that off by reminding you about the Streets Will Remember, our new partner. They have got the Miracle Men range. I'm wearing the 7980 hat. They've got another cap or two, t-shirt, hoodie, socks, really good Forest range from the streetswillremember.com. You can get 15% off when you use the discount code TRP15. So the Streets Will Remember is worth checking out. I think we'll have some cheese as well.
This episode of Talking Reds is brought to you by The Cheese Trader. If you love proper cheese and you love Nottingham Forest, then this is the place for you. From rich, creamy blues to powerful charcoal cheddar, The Cheese Trader has the flavour to match every moment of the season. Whether you're celebrating a big win or drowning your sorrows after a tough loss, use the code Talking Reds for 10% off every order. The Cheese Trader on Grape Lane in York, owned by Forest fan Stu Fristo. Proper cheese, proper passion. Find them online today and join the cheese revolution.
Good friend Stu Freestone is the Cheese Trader. You can get 10% off when you quote Talking Reds. All the details are in the bio. Right, we've closed off talking about the Europa League. You are with us at Talking Reds. As I always say, we do try. We do try. Ricardo, over to you.
Well, thank you, Greg. Yes, I'm meaning to comment on this. I love that we are trying to get Stu to lead the cheese revolution. That's a great line. What a great thing, right? You can't think of a better way to hold a revolution than if it's for cheese. That's about the best reason. But yeah, we'll transition to Fulham right now. It is going to interesting coming off of that. So we'll kind of kick it off with this, guys, before we kind of look at the lineups that we've put together. But so, Dave, after a frustrating European defeat, how big of a test do you think is? Because Vítor Pereira likes to use the word mentality. How big of a test is it going to be for the mentality of the team now, especially considering the opposition and the struggles we've had against them, and at home, which we've obviously ascertained we struggle.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it just we say this every week, right? But it really is. I mean, we're now at the pointy end, right? And these games against Fulham, like you say, Morgan as a rally point, whatever you want to call him, but we have big players, big personalities. They really, really need to show it. The crowd needs to get behind them. They need to respond to the crowd. It's so big. I can't even this game and especially with with those around us also. big games, we need to separate ourselves. We need to give ourselves some breathing space. And like I say, I don't care how those goals go in, but we need to find them.
Yeah, absolutely. Same question to you, Greg. I mean, because every match is critical, as we know. Every match is winnable, as we know. But how much do you put emphasis on this particular match coming off of that and the sort of must-win factor that accompanies it?
Yeah, I think every game is every game is a must-win. But this and the Spurs game for me, I think I'm going to say. I mean, I know that I'm quite partial to a bold, big statement. But I think that these next two games might well and truly decide if we stay up or not. Because I think it's that crucial. When you've got Fulham at home and you're going away to a Spurs team and a club that are in disarray, whether they've managed to fix things by then, I don't know. But it's potentially a perfect time to play them. And then you've got, I think it's Villa after that, and you've got Burnley after that. If we can get 6 points, which is a big ask, especially now we're talking about how difficult it is for this team to score goals. And I think that will be the reason why we get relegated. If it happens that we get relegated, it will be because we are just unable to put the ball in the back of the net. It's all these chances we're creating, all these stats. It's almost like, I put this up again. It's almost like we're being ridiculed by the masses. Oh, look at how many shots Forest are having, and they can't score a goal. And it's becoming a little bit of a thing now. So when Fulham come on Sunday to the City Ground, we have to win. We need to take those 3 points. I said on a previous pod that, a team like Forest that would be after the next round of games, 2 games. If we go to 31 games, we're currently on 29 games. If we go to 31 games, and we've added 6 points to our current tally of 28, that puts us on 34. And in recent years, and in fact, I think historically in the Premier League, I'll say it again, teams that are on 31 games and 34 points, it's in the 90th percentile. 90-odd% of those teams survive. So we will be doing ourselves a massive, massive, massive favour by hook or by crook getting the win on Sunday. That sets us up perfectly to go away to Spurs and go for the next 3 points. Because I think if we can grab those 6 points from the next 2 games, it just is going to release so much tension. Villa, for me, at home, it is, look, a point. I'll take a point now. But they're very up and down, and I think we have to beat Burnley. So in the next 4 Premier League games, we could potentially pick up 9 points. I genuinely think. But it just comes down to, again, can we score goals? And I just don't know if that's going to come to pass.
I mean, you have every evidence to suggest that that's a good question to ask, right? And good concern to have, but yeah, especially with that graphic you put up. Yeah, I think another thing for me too is just the nature of bringing back that fortress concept with the City Ground, because in our first couple of seasons, that was such a vital element of it. We'd get the occasional away win, wasn't really very successful. Clearly, especially the first season, we really struggled there. But getting that back, that mystique back, and that sort of environment that we need. I mean, the fans are doing their part, as we said. So having that going into that Villa match, who are obviously high up in the table compared to where we are, opposite ends. And so being able to kind of feel a little bit more, we use the confidence, momentum, right? Those are words we use a lot. Getting that kind of mojo back, if you will, for how the City Ground provides value to us and the team, and makes it difficult for the opposition would be critical. So let's kind of, I think, bring up those teams, Greg, if we could, so that we can kind of look at what we think we might do to set up. So, Greg, I'll start with you real quick, or actually I'll start with Dave. Pereira now faces in kind of a balancing act. Do you think he's going to prioritize? We talked about this a little bit, the Premier League survival fight, or keep an eye on the European second leg? And looking at this lineup, how do you rate that? Because it feels like that would be saying, I'm really focusing in on my strongest team potentially, as well as trying to put the best foot forward with Premier League. So what are your thoughts on potentially seeing this team on Sunday? And
I mean, I love that. Our confidence last season came from a strong back four, right? And I think when you've got that as a foundation, I think that's why I say about weakness and tinkering, right? This is exactly what I mean. It's like, is if you know, and with, I'm sorry to bring him back up again, but Morata, I think once you've got that where you don't have confidence, I think it stops the confidence going forward, right? Because we're always at risk. We're always looking over our shoulder, to do that. But I think this back four and build from there, I think for me is the way I would go. You have to do that. You have to have those teams have a solid back, and then let Anderson and Gibbs White and Hutchinson and move around, give them the freedom to go forward, and hopefully that's where we're going to be, right?
Absolutely. And for those who can't see it on the screen, we got Sells in goal, the typical back four of Williams, left back, Murillo, Milenkovic, Aina, Anderson, Sangare. So this is a 4-2-3-1 formation that we're used to seeing. Hudson-Odoi on the left wing, Gibbs White in the 10, Hutchinson on the right wing, and then you got Jesus up top. Greg, do you want to add anything to what Dave said on this one, or do you want to kind of look at some other ones?
On the 4-2-3-1, I think everyone would pick. If you said to everyone it's going to be 4-2-3-1, I'm confident that everyone who's a Forest fan would pick those names. I don't think there's anyone else on the periphery that's challenging any of those for a starting berth per se, or enough for them to kind of go with another play. We can make a case for maybe one or two others, but I think when push comes to shove, they're the names that you'd select in the 4-2-3-1.
For sure. Real quick, I thought this is an interesting little moment here from Steve-O. Forest haven't won at home in the Prem since December 14th. That is alarming. So appreciate you jumping in on that, Steve-O, and for anyone who's in the comments right now, appreciate you guys commenting. So we'll kind of move on to the next one, Greg. So this one's kind of, I think, sticking with the 4-2-3-1, but maybe a few changes to kind of maybe switch some things up, give a different look to Fulham. What are your thoughts on this formation? And if you want to read it out.
Yeah, sure. So this is still Sells in goal. This has got Luca Netz on the left and Williams on the right, with Murillo and Milenkovic at the back, Anderson and Sangare in the two in midfield. Hudson-Odoi and Gibbs White still in their places with Igor Jesus. But this selection has got Dan Indoor on the right. Now, I don't think he'll be fit, if I'm honest with you. He wasn't fit last night. So, I think it's Hutchinson definitely to play. I personally wouldn't make a case for Dan Indoor to start. I would make a case for Luca Netz to start because I think he can offer something to this team. He's got experience in the Bundesliga, as we've talked about previously. If we are looking to maybe make a change, then that would be the area that I would consider doing it, or I'd want to do it. And then it might be that you take Nico out again. It's more likely that Ola Aina would drop out. And again, it's not so much on him for last night's mistake, but if you are looking to freshen things up and just bring a different dynamic into the starting 11, Luca Netz is there, and he is a good option. He's not going to come in, I don't think, and freeze like a rabbit in the headlights and so on. So I could certainly make a bit of a case for Luca Netz. I mean, again, like I just alluded to, if you absolutely held me down and said, pick your team in a 4-2-3-1, then I'm going to pick Williams and Aina. But if it were to be that Luca Netz came in, I could go with that. I wouldn't be like moaning, going, oh my God, what is he thinking? I could go with Luca Netz playing and feel pretty happy that, okay, I think this back four can still function well. And I think his link-up play with Callum on the left-hand side will still be positive. I would feel aggrieved if it were a Bakwa or an Ndoye coming in. That's where I would feel aggrieved. So, yeah, I can go with the Luca Netz coming in if Pereira felt he needed to freshen it up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's move to the next one. Thanks, Greg. Yeah, so we're going to kind of, this is I'll call it the RAF formation, because he's long, professed his love for the 4-3-3. So we've got a 4-3-3 formation here, Dave. You're looking at similar personnel that we've seen in the past. You're making minimal changes really in the end on this, other than the formational change and flattening out that midfield. But what do you think about, Netz in this role too? Because that's about the only change you're really seeing. Well, Aina out, Williams moving to the right again, Netz on the left. But this kind of packs the midfield a little bit and provides a little bit of value to trying to kind of stay compact in that and reduce their effectiveness in the midfield.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure the personnel. I mean, Netz again, he can come in if we feel that we need a change for Aina. My thoughts on that. Dominguez rather than Hutch. Well, I don't know. And if you're going to do that, again, I'm sort of have a strange one here for throwing McAtee in if you're going to do this. You know,
Sorry,
seriously,
hey,
if you're going to play that,
where would you throw him in?
Formation, right?
Where would you throw him in, Dave?
I don't know. I'd put
would you play him between, like, maybe you take Callum out, you play a 2 up top, and then have him kind of operate more centrally, like in a 10. So you're going 4, 3, 1, 2, maybe.
I'd almost take, you know, Jesus off and just play him there and just mix it and mix it. And
the false 9.
I really do. Yeah, I mean, you know, my love for him as well, right? It's not huge, but yeah, I don't know. I mean,
we have talked about a false 9. We have talked about a false 9, and whether it's Gibbs, White, or McAtee. So for those that didn't see it, this is a 4-3-3 of Anderson, Sangari, Dominguez across the middle. Nets in at left back. I mean, it could be Nets, Williams, or Aina. You know, up front on this lineup, Hudson-Odoi, Jesus, and Gibbs, White. And if you're going to go with the false 9, which we talked about previously, and I wouldn't be against. I asked a question in the first half about how he might structurally shake up the attack to try and get us to score goals. I would not be against going with a false 9 with McAtee and Gibbs White rotating into that, because Igor Jesus, I think, offers a lot, but he just doesn't offer goals.
He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't. And you know, you know, the rolling around antic falls down all the time. Please stand up and please, you know, do. But we just need to do something up there. We need something up there to shake it up, and it's proven it's not him, right? You know, so.
Well, and I like the fact. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. It's like I said in the comments last night. I don't know what happens on the training ground, as none of us do. But you know, McAtee came into the squad, was our best player, and then has been then stuck in the thing again. And we keep talking about him playing out of position. You know, well, let's play him in position. And if you're going to mix it up, I would be that radical right now if you're going to do that up top.
Yeah, the only thing, but although we've kind of shied away from crossing the ball into the box a lot, like we did under Deitch since, certainly yesterday's match. I can't think of a ton of crosses that came through. The one thing I think you get with what you were mentioning, Greg, maybe in this scenario you could see Jesus dropping a little bit deeper and operating almost as a false 10 scenario and kind of linking up with Morgan and letting Morgan kind of play higher up the pitch. And you've got 2 guys. I think Morgan, while he's not the tallest, he's pretty explosive in terms of his ability to get up for a header. We've certainly seen that. We know Jesus can do a little bit of that too. It's not been as consistent lately, but we've certainly seen it. So, and I agree with Steve-O as well. I think this does give him more license, Callum Hudson-Odoi, to kind of roam, because one thing we know he can do, even if he hasn't been doing as much lately, is he's got a pretty nice elite right foot, right, on his day. So it gives him a chance to, I think, operate more in a 10 as well, and maybe allow Jesus and Gibbs White. So there's a little bit more fluidity to how you utilize those players. So maybe by doing that, it gives them a little bit more opportunity to kind of have different looks in the box, because we know once they get into the box, they seem to be really anemic, which is really clearly the frustrating part about everything we're seeing right now. But yeah, and Steph says she kind of likes this one as well. So yeah, that's what we try to do. We try to give a little bit different look, don't we, Greg, with some of these formations. So let's move on to the next one, because I think Andrew Haywood had put in here, he wanted to see Aina and 3 Williams / Nets at wingback. So that's what we've given you, Andrew. We're of like mind. So Greg, I'm going to go to you on this one. What are your thoughts? This is the back 3 with a bit of a different look to a different twist than we're used to, because Cunha's out. So
yeah. So Sales in goal, a back 3 of Murillo Milenkovic and Ola Aina. He's 6 foot something, remember, guys. So he's not tiny. Luca Nets on the left, Williams on the right in the wing back positions. Anderson, Sangari, Dominguez making up the midfield, with the front 2 of Igor Jesus and Gibbs White. And you know what? I can actually get on board with this. I really can get on board with this. If we're going to play a 3, then I feel very, very confident with Ola Aina in that position as opposed to Morato. I think that his composure on the ball is excellent. His touch is really good. He's very good at reading the game. He's used to operating down that right-hand side. So I think that he could slot into a back 3 alongside those 2, Murillo and Milinkovic, really well. And that then releases the idea of bringing Nets in and Williams. I mean, Luca Nets, his profile is probably more of a wing back than a full back.
Yeah.
We've got midfield solidity with Sangaria, Anderson, Dominguez. What that does, it means as well that it unlocks Anderson to go forward and probably interchange with Gibbs White more as well. Dominguez and Sangaria will do the mopping up. And when you've got legs in there with Dominguez, Sangaria will anchor and maybe become a bit of a solo pivot at times as well. And then you've got Gibbs White playing higher up next to Jesus. Now, when Gibbs White is playing higher up the pitch, that's when I think he comes alive more. His flicks and tricks tend to come off, and Igor Jesus and him, I think, will link up really well together. We saw elements of that against Manchester City in the second half. So, you know, I could get on board with this. I really could. You know, purely because I think Pereira likes the back three, and I think that would have been the way he'd have gone down the rest of the games. And I think if you are going to stick with the back three with no Jay Cunha, then for me, Ola Aina is the best candidate to come in and fit into that role. So, yeah, a big thumbs up from me.
Yeah, and I like the idea, too, that you're not putting him in a position where he's got to play more higher up the pitch and he's got to run as much as he has been in these other matches. And so you allow him to kind of operate with a very select area of the pitch, right, and really just function with that basic area at the back there. So he's really providing cover too for the wide areas, because we'll get on to the opposition review next with Greg, but so we can talk a little bit about that. Dave, any thoughts on this one? Because I think some folks in the chat are seeming like this. I'll be honest with you, Greg, you did a good job selling it. I liked it when I put it together, and I like it even more now. So I'm kind of if you're asking me to vote, I'm putting my hand up for this one. What do you think, Dave?
I think it's a good alternate when we need to be, you know, when we need to pack the midfield. It gives a different option. I'm not sure I'd start like this, but you know, the manager likes this formation. But I do think it gives us an option to change things up. And we know that at least one of the things that this manager does that others haven't is sees when something's not working and try and change it and try, you know, he doesn't hold back with that. So I think it's a good alter, you know, again, you know, some of the personnel I may not have the same view, but you know, that's fine. Right?
Who is it that stands out for you? I've got to ask you, Dave, who is it you got a little bit of a downer on personnel wise and at the moment? I mean, Igor Jesus is our only viable striker. Would you play Tyro instead, for example?
No. but he's the one I don't like. I mean, he's the one that, you know, I know he scored in Europe and I get all of that, and he's capable of doing it. You know, for me, he's, you know, we need fight and we need battle and we need something, and I just don't think he's giving us that option where he's going to take the ball, and you know, he sometimes becomes a liability with his antics of falling over and sort of breaks the momentum of the game. I would. You know, for me, I'd rather play Callum there if you're going to do that, and just, you know, just have every attacking option to give him some space to run around and change sides and mix it up a little. But you know, he just doesn't fill me with confidence. But then again, we don't really have another viable option. I mean, Luca's obviously not a viable option, right? Scored the first one, thought, oh great, and here we are, right? You know, now I don't think any of us would play him. So I mean, I don't know. We are just so thin in that area. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Maybe
McAtee up next to Gibbs White would be an option if they. I think, you know, you're rolling when you start suggesting things like this, and I can hear myself doing it. You're rolling the dice. You're coming out with, oh, we should try this and we should try that. But we are kind of probably into that territory of, look, we've got to do something, because whatever's happening at the moment, we ain't scoring the goals. Simple.
Well, I would say. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
No. I mean, you know, that's a strange thing, isn't it? Because I'm sort of looking at him, I'm going, but he has scored goals, and he's proven to score goals. And there's me, you know, feeling like I haven't had my second cup of coffee this morning. I'm being a bit miserable, I just, you know, I'm just trying to look for something. I think we're all just trying to look for something, and you know, again, he might turn up at Fulham with that formation and score 2 or 3, and we think is the best striker we've ever had again. You know, we all change our mind and flip-flop next week. He'll be, you know, he definitely needs to start. But I just, you know, I think too many games have gone by where we haven't seen it, and I don't know where it's coming from for that to have changed, right?
Yeah, I guess the last thing on that I would say is that to Greg's point, yes, it is a bit of a experimentation, I guess, for lack of a better word. It's not so much in the formation; it's about where you're placing these players and where you're putting them and the intent behind where you're positioning them. But I would say that it feels like in a situation like that at least it's more natural in terms of where they're setting up. It wouldn't seem like it would be diminishing their ability to play to their strengths, as it were. So yeah, Taiwo and Jesus up front together. I was like, did we sign a different? Is there another version that's out there that we weren't aware of? Yeah, there we go.
I'd play that new striker. Yeah.
That's right. Let's do that. Yeah, if we're gonna tinker, let's play with Taiko. Anyway, yeah, appreciate that, guys. Thanks for kind of walking through that, and great thoughts on that. Now we're gonna turn the time over to Greg to look at the opposition. And I know Greg, this is a very well coach side by Marco Silva, a guy who we've coveted as a manager. So give us your take and your insights on Fulham.
Yeah, if we stay up, Marco Silva will be our manager next season. I've been saying that for a while. Okay, guys, right. So look, we're going to have a quick look at the opposition. Fulham are coming to town, and in their last 6 games, they've lost 4 and they've won 2. So for those that can see the screen, their most recent game was that home fixture against West Ham, which we were all praying and hoping that they would win. Well, of course, they lost. The game before that, they did win. They beat Spurs, which did us the favour. The game before that, they were away at Sunderland and picked up a healthy 3 points, a tricky place to go. We've got to go there soon as well. But the 3 games before that, that's when they picked up three in a row in terms of defeats. Away at Man United, they were at home and lost to Everton, and they went away to Man City and lost 3-0. So, their form has been up and down this season, but they seem to be picking up wins at the right time to steer themselves out of the conversation of, any danger at the bottom. We know about their players, I think, as Forest fans and their danger men, and we know that Harry Wilson has been a standout player for them this season. He missed the West Ham game, and there is a 50% chance that he's going to be ruled out. It was an ankle or foot injury that's kept him out. And another player out possibly as well, or has been ruled out, is Kevin Masado. So we're kind of, as Forest fans, probably hoping that Wilson misses out because, as I've said, he scored key goals for them throughout the season. And any help we can get with a weakened team in the opposition ranks, we're going to take it. The game at the earlier on in the season down at Craven Cottage, looking back, it was another penalty from Raul Jimenez again. It was a Douglas Luiz tackle on the day that meant that we gave away the penalty, but we just didn't look like scoring again. So serious thought has to be given to how we set up against Fulham, who generally go with a back 4. They have used a back 3. They did that against Sunderland when they went away and got that win. Last 2 outings has been the back 4 with regulars like Calvin Bassey in the back line. Sander Berger is regularly featuring in their midfield as well. And, of course, Jimenez is their main striker. Iwobi flits in between being a winger. Sometimes he'll play in next to Sander Berg. So we know their players. We know their profile. And we know that Marco Silva will be a manager that will look to try and win every game. So, Forest at home, we've already seen the stat about lots of shots on goal and the inability to score. We know about that. We have to try and find a way to break them down in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net when we're having our shots on goal. Their weaknesses mean that they do struggle to limit open play goals. So if we are going to score, maybe an open play scenario is going to serve us best. Let's move on to the next slide. And we can see that their goals come mainly from open play, 55%. They do score set pieces. They've had a few penalties this season. And when they attack, predominantly down the left-hand side, but it's pretty even, I guess, when you look at a middle and a right-hand side as well. So they're coming forwards, not necessarily too choosy about which side they attack. 42% is, as I say, more on the left-hand side. They will shoot from outside of the box. 32% of their shots come from outside of the box, but a whopping 57% are within the 18-yard box and just 11% inside the 6-yard box. Main guy is there on the right-hand side, Harry Wilson. Alex Iwobi as well was above 7. Joachim Andersen, a staunch defender for them, also above 7. So really, I guess the story is, will Harry Wilson play? We hope not. Fulham can be dangerous, but we showed a couple of seasons back that when we turn it on and we get it right, we destroyed them on that night, 3-0 within the first half. and we'll be hoping for something similar when they come to town on Sunday.
Brilliant. Yes, the Welshmen. I love, being one myself. I'm partial to them, but
Make your
it'll be
mind
really
up,
interesting.
Make your mind up.
I know, man.
You can't
I'm just
say,
doing this for
I'm English. I'm an American. I'm a Welshman. Make your mind up.
I think it was you that mocked me for saying that I struggle with my identity when it comes to this. So I'll just say I'm just going based off of the DNA profile. It tells me I'm higher Welsh than English. So I'm just playing the numbers here, right? We're a fan of numbers on this podcast. So anyway, yeah. Well, real quick, I know we're kind of wrapping up here. We're kind of coming to the end of the podcast, but is there a type of is this a type of match, Dave, from your perspective, where Forest should be more pragmatic? You anticipate? I know we've talked about getting more attacking. So from your perspective, do you feel like with the way Fulham is, see it out in the first half, kind of feel it out and see where they're at, especially if Wilson's playing right? That's going to be a dynamic matchup, especially going against his countryman potentially in Nico Williams. That'll be a really good matchup to see. Do you think we just need to be more pragmatic, or do we need to sit deeper and counter, or do you feel like we need to be more front foot from the off?
Oh no, I think we need to be front foot. I think there's absolutely 0 point in in trying to defend something here, is there? I mean, really, we all hope Wilson doesn't play, and I think that will give us a little bit more thing. But I think we just need absolutely solid across the back, and then just to give everyone, just take the shackles off, just give everyone the freedom, and just go. You're going to have to go for it and see where it takes us, right? You saw their game against Sunderland. As you know, my family, the other side of my family, are all Sunderland fans. So, they were like 3 up within a very short space of time and just sat the game out. That would be for me. It would settle everyone on who's on this podcast and everyone listening. All of our nerves would be settled if we can go out and get a couple of early goals and do that. But yeah, I don't think there's any value of sitting back and we're not proven to be prolific goal scorers, so there's no point wasting the first half on feeling them out, right? We just need to full out here. I don't think we have another option. I don't think we do. It's like every game is almost like a cup game. I know it's very, very cliche, very thingy to say it, but it really is now. I think we've got anything to lose here.
Yeah, you want to see them actually execute those cliches, right? Because we hear Morgan say, "Oh, we're going to look ourselves in the mirror." I'm like, okay, well, when's that going to happen? Because I haven't quite seen it. But anyway, yeah, Greg, from your perspective, are you kind of in agreement with what Dave's saying? And then also, for you in these types of matches, who becomes crucial from Forest perspective in terms of impact players that we need to see be at their maximum level?
That's just the usual faces. Morgan Gibbs-White has to keep performing as he has done in recent games, because I think he's the key to everything. And I don't mind that. Elliot Anderson is a fantastic player, but we've got Gibbs-White, we've got Anderson, we've got other really good players, but we find ourselves where we are in the league. And ultimately, the league doesn't lie at the end of the day. These players have got to step up. I don't want to hear, we've got to look ourselves in the mirror, or we go again. It's like, just score chuffing goals. Just score goals then. I'm not being funny.
Come on. That's simple, guys.
Come on. I say it because I'm losing faith in them a bit, because the inconsistency is so draining. When you play against Liverpool and you play really well, but you can't score. You play against Brighton and you score a worldy goal, but you still lose. You play against Man City and the fight's there, the grit's there, the game plan's there. You score 2 worldly goals again, you get the draw. So you think, well, there's something in this team. But then when you play at home against Fenerbahce and you play at home against Midtjylland and you lose the games, whether it's with changes in the team or not, there were chances there that it should be put away. And you look at last night again, it's the same players missing chances. When the ball comes over and Hutch or decides to just take a little touch and it knocks it away from Gibbs-White, or when Callum rips it up down the left, their player pulls up with a hamstring and they're lining up to be in the box. He plays it to Morgan. Callum could have cut in. He'd have been better off cutting in, carrying it on and smacking it in. Or when Gibbs-White gets the ball, take a touch, but he looks to play it across. And then he has a go at Hutch because he doesn't shoot first time. But actually the ball across was shit. The ball across wasn't very good. He had to take a touch. So it's those moments that you think, listen, I'm confident that we've got good players. I'm confident that they can win football matches if they score goals. I'm just not confident they're going to score goals. So that make of that what you will. I think the answer is I don't know what's going to happen in these games because I don't know if they can score goals anymore because they've shown it's not just one game. They've shown time and time and time again across the board the inability to put the ball in the back of the net and make the right choices. And I'll say one more thing before I shut up. I'm sick and tired of the process that they go through when they go down the left wing. They said it last night. Fletch said it last night as well. He was right on TNT. He voiced it and he said it and it was right. Get the freaking ball in. They cut back. He'll play it to Nico. He'll play it to Ando. They'll try and do all these intricacies down the left-hand side. And it's like, what are you fannying around with the ball for? You know, just get the ball in. They don't really feel like they know what to do with it. And when Luka comes on, they cross the ball. It's too high above his head, and he's a waste of space anyway. So, no, I'm not feeling very good anymore. I'm going to...
No, I think it's all very valid, and certainly what Fletch said is valid. I think sometimes you got to wonder how much of that is PTSD from the Deitch era, where it was just cross, you know, and they're kind of being beaten into their heads about trying to be a little bit more, you know, I don't know, pragmatic's not the word, but just be a little bit more willing to take players on, right? But you're not wrong. It's almost like we're setting ourselves up for taking shots outside the 18-yard box, which we know is going to have a less of an XG, right, impact, and it's going to be harder to get those because we've kind of relied on that recently. You just touched on it, Greg, in terms of the worldies that we've seen. Brilliant, you know, strikes, great goals, but that's not the high percentage opportunity that you think you're going to get. And I think they possess the talent with the ball at their feet, and maybe the spacing's not always right, the movement's not always right, and maybe that's the problem in the box. But yeah, anyway, yeah, you bring up really great points, Greg, and Dave. Appreciate all the things that you're sharing as well. I know we've kind of got to conclude here, but you know, it's ironic to think, you know, just kind of before we come to final thoughts, we've played this team 6 times, Fulham. We've won once, drawn 0, and drawn none. So it's one of those teams that we know with Bournemouth as well, Brighton even, that we really just struggle to break down for whatever reason. If there's ever a time to buck that trend, we need them to do that. And the amazing part, I was just looking at how many, this was actually a really stupid exercise on my part because it just made me more frustrated with the whole no goals thing. But this same time last year, do you want to know how many goals we had? Almost double, 49.
Yeah,
but we know why.
We know why, because it was primarily due to Chris Wood. But you know, we don't need to play above our XG. We just need to play to our XG. Yeah, I mean, if we could just do that, we'd be in a much more advantageous position. Because you're right, Greg. We've shown quality. We've shown the ability to compete in most matches. There's very few matches where we're not really competing. It's just the inability to be that dynamic and clinical has just been the Achilles heel. The interesting thing, though, is if you think about a few years ago when Greg and I first started this podcast, when him and I were just chatting, we were just talking about concepts. What do we need to see next year, right? Coming off of seasons where we were with Steve Cooper and that first season with Nuno, where he came in, it was the set pieces. If we could just solve that one problem just slightly, right? A 10% improvement, you've got quite a significant amount of turnaround. We would have put ourselves, I think, in that season with Steve Cooper, we would have put ourselves at, or with Nuno, I think we would have put ourselves around 14th if we had been able, 13th or 14th, based off of what points we lost due to those set pieces. I feel like if we could just get this right, if we could just stay in the league and maybe increase that goal output by 10% as well, it might, 20%, the kind of turnaround we could see next season might be remarkable. But anyway, I'm trying to find a silver lining here. I'm trying to be the Raph for today, get the silver lining into the podcast. But anyway, we'll go ahead and turn over to final thoughts and your score predictions. Mr. Dave Thompson, what do you say about that?
Cheeky 1-0 to us. I would take that. I'd take that all day. I can't see us scoring more than that.
For sure.
So yeah, and don't care how it happens, but yeah, 1-0 tight game. But I hope I'm wrong and we actually go for it. I really do.
Yeah, Greg.
Well, look, I mean, I was probably going to say 1-0 as well because my faith in us scoring more than one goal is at an all-time low. But I think we'll concede. So I'll say 2-1 because I think I think we can win. I think we will win. I'm always going to back my team, even though I'm feeling on the floor at the moment. I think these pods usually make me feel a lot better by the end of it. If I'm honest with you, I actually feel a lot worse than when we started.
Oh, good.
I do. I feel a lot worse than when we started. And that's nothing to do with you guys. I think the more we talked about it, the more I come to the realization I just don't know what's going to happen. And that's really stressful. But I'm kind of pinning my heart and my hope that we can beat Fulham and we can beat Spurs. And I think we do that. And I think I'm guaranteeing that we survive. If we beat Fulham and Spurs, you've heard it here. You can clip that up as well, StreamYard. I'm guaranteeing that if we beat Fulham and we beat Spurs, Forest will survive. 2-1 to Forest on Sunday. Come on, you Reds.
I think that's the first time I've heard an actual someone on a podcast invoke the clipping option for StreamYard, so that you're setting an actual like place in the episode for that to happen. That's exciting, man. You're using the AI to your advantage. Yeah, I would say I'm gonna split the difference. I'm gonna go 1-1. I think we get a draw on this one. It's gonna be a little bit touch and go. It's probably gonna be edgy, like it usually is, and all of that. But I think we get that 1 point, and hopefully what that does is it gives us a little bit of confidence to go into the Spurs match, get the 3 points, and at least get 4 points out of the next match. I do agree with you, Greg. I think you get 6. You really create some serious movement for yourself going forward against matches like Villa, where you're going to have a little bit trickier competition, and even Burnley, who can be pesky at times as well. So hopefully and I think that's an away match, if I remember correctly. Is that an away match?
No, it's home.
Okay, yeah, we already played them away. That's right.
Not that means anything these days.
I know at this stage that doesn't really help us, but hopefully that'll change this week. Coming up. But everyone, we appreciate all those who are in the comments. Everyone who's chimed in has been excellent. We again encourage you to like and subscribe. We're on all the audio only platforms as well. And as Greg said earlier, please provide feedback. We love it. We'll appreciate anything that you guys share with us. At the same time, I also want to give a quick shout out to Stu Freestone too. This guy, I always say it. This is a man of an immense amount of talent. I don't think anybody really knows. You should see some of the artwork that he sent me in regards to his forthcoming book launch. So he's got a book launch and a little tour coming up this month. And so the guy is an absolute rock star, and he's amazing. He can do a lot of things besides just be a purveyor of cheese. He's a very talented poet, singer, and everything else. So he's got a book of poetry coming out, and an artist. His drawings that he sent me were absolutely amazing for these posters he's creating. So big shout out to Stu. We appreciate him. And the streets will remember, like Greg mentioned as well. We're really grateful for them, and the wonderful hat that Greg is wearing right there. I hopefully will have one of those someday, and maybe a Miracle Men t-shirt, but we appreciate them. So we'll go ahead and end it there. I mean, obviously we've got a lot to look forward to, hopefully in the forthcoming match, but until next time, come on, you Reds.
Come join Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red.